Hello, friends. I'm Kush Khandelwal, and this is Ageless Athlete. A few years ago, I started asking questions that would not leave me alone. Why do some people keep pushing mentally, physically, spiritually long after others burn out or break down? What does it really mean to age well when you still crave movement, meaning, and mastery? This show is my search for answers. Each week, I talk to elite athletes, everyday adventurers, and pioneering researchers who are stretching the limits of what's possible across age, injury, illness, and self doubt. You will hear hard won lessons, untold stories, and science backed strategies for building a body and mindset that lasts. For those of us joining for the first time, welcome to the show. For the rest, thank you for joining us again. Time is our most valuable asset, and I deeply appreciate you giving me your time today.
Follow your bliss. And so you can look at it from a numbers perspective or analyze what's the best thing to do. But on a certain level, it's emotional. On a certain level, it's personal. On a certain level, it's desire. Because at this age, no one's just jumping out of bed raring to go. That's a little bit in the past. And so you have to find something that's exciting you, that's interesting you, and turning you on. Makes you want to go do it.
Imagine, the trail is quiet, but it isn't empty. There is history here, bootprints layered over decades, ideas worn smooth by repetition, somewhere between Frisco and Moab, between the Alps and the desert. Buzz Burrell is still moving through landscapes most people pass through only once. He's not chasing youth, not racing the clock, just continuing. Buzz has lived most of his life at the edge of what endurance can mean, not as spectacle, but as inquiry. What happens if you keep going? If you return year after year, slower maybe, but sharper? If the goal isn't domination, but attention? He is one of the people who helped shape how we measure effort in the mountains. Fastest known time, FKT, isn't a race in the traditional sense. There is no starting gun, no crowd. It is simply this: one person, one route, and the question of what's possible right now. You choose your style, you choose your limits, and the mountain keeps the score. Buzz didn't just participate in the idea, he helped give it language, structure, and legitimacy. But what makes him outstanding isn't his resume. It's that he is still curious, still traveling, and still creating new ways through familiar terrain. In this conversation, we talk about longevity without nostalgia, about why slowing down doesn't mean shrinking, about recognition arriving late, and why that might actually be the point. Buzz reflects on commitment, on environments that demand pressure, and at 72, what it means to keep choosing hard, meaningful experiences as the body changes. This episode is more than just running faster. It's about staying engaged, about how a life built on movement can remain expansive long after the finish lines disappear.
I always start with this question, which is, where are you right now? And what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I'm in Frisco, Colorado, on the shore of Dillon Reservoir, and I had the same thing for breakfast I have every morning, which is power porridge, you could say, which is rolled oats with fruit, nuts, protein powder, and things like that.
But my breakfast is very similar, but when I describe it as my multi-grain cereal bowl, I think I'll lose people. So I might try to borrow your breakfast name because I think it just sounds so much punchier.
Right.
And it's been great to trade notes with you. I believe you were traveling recently and now you are back at home front. I'm curious, what were you doing? Any fun adventures or stretch of wilderness that you got into?
Yeah, I still am traveling, actually. I have a migratory lifestyle. We own a house in Moab, and I spent most of the winter there, but then bumped into Boulder to do a few things, medical issues, actually. And then I've been here in Dillon Reservoir, Frisco, Colorado. We're renting a condominium here for 10 days, and then I fly to the Alps on Friday, July 11th. Oh, I forgot California. Yeah, and actually went to California for TrailCon, the trail conference that was in between Broken Arrow Sky Race and Western States 100.
Absolutely nomadic indeed. Well, thanks again for making the time to speak with us today. I had not heard of TrailCon. The Western States was all over the news. What is TrailCon?
Dylan Bowman, along with Madigan, who's the director of Western States, and another person named Doug Emsley, the three of them put together a trail conference in between these two major events because Broken Arrow is a major event on the international calendar. It's part of the Golden Trail Series, and it's also the uphill qualifying race for the United States mountain running team. And so we had international athletes there, national athletes, and then the Western States is literally the same place. The starting lines are almost the same 5-6 days later. And so they organized a trail conference in between. People are there anyway. And I think it went quite well. So you can Google that if you want. It's TrailCon, C-O-N, one word. If you want to attend next year, it's open to anyone. But there was a couple hundred people there, a lot of industry people, runners, professionals, media, brand managers, and people like that.
Got it. It sounds like it's a trail running or maybe trail sports conference, bringing together maybe both athletes, industry, and media. And what were you doing there?
As it happens, I was inaugurated into the initial Hall of Fame. So I was inducted into the initial TrailCon Hall of Fame, and so that's literally why I was there.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There are people listening who may not know who you are, Buzz. So, well, you're a Hall of Famer now, but otherwise, how do you describe yourself these days?
I haven't died yet, and so that comes in really handy. If you just don't die, you start to reap the awards as in their later decades. It's ironic because I'm significantly slower than I used to be. I used to do all kinds of things, but now I just haven't died, so I'm being recognized more than I was at that time. But I have done quite a few things. I ran my first ultramarathon distance 58 years ago, before most people were born that I'm associated with, and I'm still am. I go to the Alps every year. I put in a new variation of a high route last year. I still race a dozen times every year. I went to the World Masters Mountain Running Championships 2 years ago. And then in business, I helped popularize the idea of mountain running when I worked with La Sportiva. And I managed Ultimate Direction and really helped introduce running vests into the market. Running vests are the standard thing now, but they didn't used to be before Ultimate Direction. And then I co-founded Fastest Known Time. So I helped popularize the entire FKT concept. I hosted the Fastest Known podcast. And then I recently have been podcasting for Ultra Sign Up. The podcast is called The Buzz. Easy to find, low-hanging fruit for that name. So feel free to track that one down. It releases every other Tuesday.
Beautiful, Buzz. You certainly have a legacy in the world of mountain sports and beyond. And there's so many stories and legends about you. And you've spent so much of your life in wild environments, mountains and trails, but you've also done a ton of canyoneering. And when I was thinking about how do we break into some of your adventures and talk about it, I should ask you, because as a rock climber, I have never fully understood the pull of canyoneering. It seems like you do a whole lot of rappelling, but little to no climbing, and you're carrying a bunch of red gear, heavy packs. So to me, it seems like a lot of type 2 fun and with a little reward. But I know that there's something deeper there, right? Because that's why you keep going back. That's why it attracts a lot of people. So what is it about canyoneering that...
Well, thank you for asking, because indeed, we've talked about running for a couple of minutes there, but I've been an active, if I may digress and broaden it up a little bit, I've competed in road cycling, mountain cycling, and gravel cycling. I've competed on stand-up paddle boards, on kayaks.
Wow.
And I competed in volleyball, even swing dancing for that matter, skiing, multiple ski races, always cross-country. Canyoneering, there's no such thing as a race, but for many years I was an active canyoneer. And to come back to your particular question, I think it's the environment. Climbing has a extremely long history, obviously, and it has this numerical grade, and so you naturally want to go from 5'5" to 5'8" to 5'10", et cetera, et cetera. And so it has this appeal to the human nature of wanting to get the higher number, but also there's this joy of movement and being in those surroundings. I think in canyoneering, it's entirely the latter. Because once you drop into a canyon, you're in another world. It's truly remarkable. These can be dry canyons, they can be wet canyons. And for example, my partner at the time, Jared Campbell, and a good friend of ours, Ryan McDermott, we did the 3 biggest canyons in Zion National Park in one day. And all 3 of them have wet potholes, and the temperature outside can be 100 degrees, and we are wearing full body wetsuits. We even pull the hoods up because it's so cold down in those potholes because the sun doesn't really penetrate that far. And it's dramatic. In climbing, you're going up, and if you don't like it, you go down. You can wrap off. You can take a descent route. You can do something else. But once you pull the first rope in a canyon, you're going down. You can't get back because you literally can't climb up a technical canyon. So you have to keep going. It's really quite committing. And it's a very different environment. And again, it runs, just like climbing does, it runs the range from non-technical, just hiking and scrambling, to fairly technical, to very technical, where you have to use particular techniques to get out of particular spots.
Absolutely. And maybe you spoke of Zion. Zion is a magnificent national park. I've been fortunate to have done some climbing in Zion, and that was spectacular. I did not get a chance to visit some of the, let's say, other parts of Zion, like, the slot canyons, for example. So maybe this is such a good example. Maybe you could talk about what is it about that natural beauty of going into those, I suppose, those deep caverns and subterranean depth sometimes, because to a lot of us who play in the wide open world under the skies, that part about that sport can feel both laborious and scary. So please take us into that world, and why is it so mesmerizing?
Well, I think there's different sports for different folks. And so I'm not going to try to convince anyone on what to do or not to do. Climbing is very, in my mind, primal. One of those primal sports like surfing, running, and hiking are, where you naturally do it. Many kids naturally do it. But then other people look at it and say, well, that's just stupid. It looks really scary. You're high up off the ground, et cetera, et cetera. And so various arguments can be made for and against different sports. And so I have no interest, to be honest, in promoting canyoneering at all. I just say that it's a different world down there, and if you're different worlds,
Sure.
then you would need to get trained up because it is a specific skill set.
100%. And I think my curiosity has been piqued just enough in the last couple of years with canyoneering. I am encouraged to give it a shot, and I feel many people listening here would likely feel the same way. You had mentioned that you still train in the mornings. That's why we picked a late evening hour to chat about. So you do so many different things, like you mentioned. What does training look like for you now?
Yeah, let's see. I think when you get older, consistency becomes more and more important because the old saying, use it or lose it, is a true saying, whether it's your mind or your body. And past a certain age, for example, if you drop down a level either through illness, injury, or some other reason, you will not regain it. You won't. It ain't going to happen. And I think that's largely true after 60, mostly true after 65, and certainly true after 70. That's for basic cardiovascular fitness and strength. So, for example, Kush, whatever muscle mass you have right now is all you're ever going to have. It's truly use it or lose it. So as aging athletes, getting back to your topic, you kind of have to stay on it. I think when you're younger, you can take seasons off, or you can get injured, or you can start families or go to school and things like that and ramp it back up. But after the age of certainly 65, you kind of have to stay on it. And so I like to be consistent. And I'll just tell you my daily regimen if you'd like.
Love to hear it.
So, and unless I'm doing a big outing, I literally wake up, put on my shoes, and go for a walk. It's about 30 minutes. And that loosens me up, stretches me out, and it's a nice way to greet the natural world instead of looking at email or something like that. And then I'll eat breakfast, first cup of coffee, so to speak, after that. And then because I'm retired, I have the luxury of going for my workout, so to speak, around 9, 10 o'clock when I'm woken up and got my bearings and things like that. And nowadays it tends to be running, hiking, but I'm a strong cyclist. And I just I kayaked 10 miles today on Dillon Reservoir, so it can be any number of things. And then if I'm feeling good before dinner, like at 5, maybe as late as 6 o'clock, I'll do sometimes a light strength and stretching routine. Nothing massive, but again, you got to stay limber and you got to keep the strength up. And so I'll do 3 things a day unless it's a big day, and then I'll just do one thing. And then that main workout around 9 or 10, that varies as to what it might be. And then tomorrow I'm just going to do that. I'm going to drive up to Breckenridge and do the 10-mile traverse, the 10-mile range. And this is 8 summits all over 12,000 feet high. I'm going to get up on the ridge by myself and try to do a long ridge traverse, which will probably take 10 hours. So I'll get on that right away tomorrow.
Friends, it means a lot that you're here. I pour a ton of heart into the show. The research, the interviews, the editing. It's all me, trying to share stories that matter. If Ageless Athlete has ever made you feel seen, inspired you, or just kept you company on a long drive, or better, over a run or a bike ride, I would be so grateful if you considered supporting it. Even a small amount helps keep it going, helps keep bringing the show to you for free. You can chip in at buymeacoffee.com/agelessathlete. Again, buymeacoffee.com/agelessathlete. You can find the link on the show notes as well. Thank you for listening and for being part of this.
Got it. Yeah, this is just another big day for you.
Yeah, tomorrow will be a big day.
Sure. And Buzz, you've performed with excellence over so many things. And I'm curious, has that also helped you, let's say, mitigate the demands on your body to some degree? Because, okay, just to stick with climbing for a second, you use these muscles and you use them in like these tight, constrictive positions over. And after a while, like I've been doing this for 20 plus years now, I know that there's certain things that have now accumulated. These types of injuries, overuse is what they call it. So do you think that the diversity that you've added has helped you maybe manage your fitness and even your motivation?
Yeah, I think so. But then again, that's personality type. Some people are very focused, and I'm really primarily an adventurer. I think I'm probably known as a runner, but I don't self-identify that way at all. I'm an adventurer and an explorer, so that's what moves me. Alex Hutchinson, columnist for Outside Magazine, had a great quote when asked about the best workout, and he said, the one you enjoy, because that's the one you're going to keep doing. And so I thought that's a very apropos answer, isn't it? So and of course, Joseph Campbell said the same thing, follow your bliss. And so you can look at it from a numbers perspective and analyze what's the best thing to do, but on a certain level, it's emotional. On a certain level, it's personal. On a certain level, it's desire. Because at this age, no one's just jumping out of bed raring to go. That's a little bit in the past. And so you have to find something that's exciting you, that's interesting you, and turning you on, makes you want to go do it. And so I do think that my diversity of activities has balanced myself physically certainly, but it also does hold oneself back from hitting peaks in any one area. I think cross training, if I may diverge to a little training theory, at an
Yes.
earlier age is helpful, particularly at a really early age. For example, the idea that you have to be committed by age 6 or 8 is stupid, and it just isn't borne out by the facts. Norway, a country of 5 million people, they basically ban keeping score until you're like at least 10 years old. And they want you to explore, they want you to do different things, and they're very successful on the top end. And so, but they start off being really playful and doing a lot of different things. And I think some cross training helps out at that time. But again, after you get past the age of 60, you look at the top people and they don't do any cross training, interestingly enough. They just dial in the biomechanics of what they're doing,
Wow. Yeah.
whether it's a climber, a cyclist, or a runner. Like your top runners, your age group record holders, they do the same bloody thing every day. They're, to me, fairly boring, but that works at this age because they get that biomechanics just dialed in and they get their body used to it so they can carry it into an age when they're becoming stiffer and slower.
I am fascinated by that answer, not what I would expect. I would expect that people who have been really good at a certain sport, they would want to start working on, let's say, other things. One thing that we keep hearing in popular culture, or just not just culture, but from, let's say, scientists and advocates, is that, for example, the importance of adding strength training, right? That one already has all the skill for one's primary sport, so maybe do less of that sport, or maybe do it a little bit differently, but add in components of strength training. And yeah, I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. Are you saying we need to continue, or the top athletes, they continue working on their main sport and maybe even doubling down on it as they get older?
That's my observation.
Wow.
That's not exactly training theory. That's just what I observe, because we really lose flexibility. We lose strength, all kinds of things. And so after a certain age, if you will, to focus on one movement actually works better because then you can just carry it forward. Your body gets used to it. So, for example, if it's running is actually hard. You can be 45 years old and running just feels really hard. But there's people who are 70 years old and have run a sub 3 hour marathon. They do that because that's all they do. They don't do anything else, oddly enough. But I think that also makes them prone to injury. And I personally don't want to do that because it's not that interesting. You see what I mean? But just for pure performance, I think stick with one thing after age 60 or 65.
Okay.
If that's the thing you really want to do.
Okay, and maybe I'm also understanding that once maybe you get past a certain line, a certain hump, maybe you've understood your body so well that you know how to subconsciously avert overuse injuries by being able to.
Yeah, you've got it dialed in. If you're a climber, there's all sorts of different moves. And there's a lot of torque on your shoulders, obviously, and some on your elbows, and of course, your hands and forearms. But for climbers, your fingers are super important. But if those hang in there, it's going to be your shoulder. And that's doing weird things, depending
Yes.
on, you look at the modern sport climbing, not sport climbing, but comp climbing, and they're just doing bizarre, I mean, you look at that on TV and you go, oh my God, you'd be in the hospital immediately if you tried some of those moves they're doing. But they practice, they have coaches, they're indoors and they're working on those moves so their shoulders mostly can handle it. But for the trad climber, you're not going to do anything that dramatic, hopefully. And so you dial in the motion. You know what you can and can't do. You warm up, and then you try not to put yourself in position where if you're crack climbing and you get a good foot jam going and your hands come out, your foot, it's got to release. Otherwise, it's going to torque the heck out of it. And so learn things of that nature.
Buzz, you yourself, you have, again, you do a variety of things. What does, let's say, an indoor training session for you look like? Like maybe strength training, maybe mobility. What is it that you rely on to keep you going?
Right. Thanks. I'm, of course, known as an adventurer. I go all over the place. I've been all over the world. I've run races in New Zealand, Australia, Europe, China, Canada, et cetera, et cetera. But in the wintertime, I'll go to the gym once or twice a week, and people think, "Oh, you go to the gym?" And yeah, I go to the gym, and I'll actually start off on the treadmill. People think treadmills are just awful, the treadmill, and the key to those is get on and get off. The treadmill should be a tempo workout, and so I do a warm up of at least 10 minutes. I get on it and I tap it out uphill only. Instead of pace, I go for the uphill for 30 minutes, and 30 minutes is all you need to do to get a. And that, interesting enough, the treadmill helps you work on your form, because when you're outside, you're doing all sorts of different things: rocks, roots, up, down, left, right, creeks. But when you're on a treadmill, you're just tapping it out, and you can really improve your running economy and efficiency because it's going at the exact same speed, and so you can make it as easy as possible. So I think treadmills work real well in the winter. I don't go in the summer. And then I just do a basic strength workout. I think if you're better at it, it's free weights. I tend to use the machines because they're easier. And then I focus on things that I need the most, which are glute bridges, which actually isn't a machine. I use that do that with an exercise ball, hamstring curls and heel lifts, the back of the leg stuff, but plus arms, core, and things like that. And then I'll end it by very little swimming. But
Oh, wow.
I like to swim, and swimming is so fluid. It makes you feel so good. It loosens up your whole body. I'm doing it for 15 minutes, to be honest. And when I started doing this last winter, which I think is really helpful and is the most boring thing possible, is pool running. So you get in the pool and you hold a couple floats in your hands. You just run in the water and you look like a moron. This is really boring, but actually it's pretty good. You really get loosened up, and you try to churn it up and make your legs move real fast, and there's no impact. And so I think it's actually good for older people to pool run. I don't mean just sit there and just putz around. You want to churn that water up.
Sure.
And again, I can only stand it for 10 or 12 minutes before I just hate it. But then I think that's good. I feel loose afterwards.
Beautiful. That is such a varied and, let's say, specific type of workout, the way you have added or put together these exercises. Are you self-coached, or have you had somebody help design this program for you?
I've never had a coach. Coaches have become quite popular recently. Runners rarely had coaches unless they're professional or on a team. And now many ultra runners and trail runners and road runners have coaches. I'm not one of them. So the internet works pretty well.
Sure.
And then you just listen, you feel it out, talk it up, and I'm fine with what I'm doing.
Hello, friends. Just a quick break. This is not an ad. If you have been enjoying these conversations, I would love for you to subscribe to my newsletter. It is where I go deeper, sharing stories, reflections, and behind the scenes insights that don't always make it into the podcast. I write about what I'm learning from elite athletes and how to stay ageless in body and mind. If you have ever wanted a thoughtful, inspiring read that ties it all together: training, aging, mindset, and awe, you will love this. You can find the link in the show notes, or just head to agelessathlete.co. Again, www.agelessathlete.co, that is, to sign up. And yeah, just a couple of emails a month, and you can unsubscribe anytime. Absolutely no spam ever. Okay, back to the show.
I follow the big wave surfer Laird Hamilton, and I've seen enough of his media now on the workouts he does with weights and underwater training. And I sense at some point when I have access to a pool and whatnot, I might start taking advantage, because the low impact nature of that workout does seem appealing.
Yeah.
Before I forget, one thing I wanted to pick on is you talked about all the different things you do. The one thing that I did not expect is the swing dancing. And I love that because I've dabbled in a few different kinds of social dances myself. Do you find anything transfers over when it comes to, let's say, mindset or a flow between the world of dancing?
Well, thanks for bringing that up. Well, there's no such thing as a runner who dances, except for me. They're just so different. And runners tend to be real methodical, and their range of motion is very limited, frankly. Some of your top runners are probably, in a certain sense, about as good athletes as a bowler. To be the top 10 in the world marathon, you don't have to be strong, you don't have to be limber, you don't have to be coordinated. You have to be able to do one thing really, really well, which is cool. I mean, running is a very primal, basic, fantastic sport because it's the cheapest sport there is, and you can do it anywhere, anytime. But dancing is its own thing. I mean, it's just in a different category because there's two things happening. I tell this to people. There's only two things you have to do is dance with your partner and move to the music. It's only two things you have to do. So there's a lot less technique than you might think, but you do sort of have to have a feel for it. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. And I only do social dancing, ballet, jazz, and so forth. I don't do any sort of performance in that. I used to, actually. But social dancing is remarkable. There's another person, and you both are going to move in sync to this external sound. And music goes back as far as you can go in history. It's pre-literature. Music and dancing precedes probably vocabulary. And so I think it's a perfectly wonderful thing to do. And I like swing dancing because it's the most athletic. You can get a pretty good workout swing dancing.
100% dancing goes far back. But then I also think dancing is primal also. I mean, you look at little babies, that you see little babies tapping when they hear a beat, and they don't need to be told to do. They seem to just do that instinctively. And I feel that as adults, we need to tap into as many primal things, whether they are out in nature or otherwise.
I agree.
And yeah, just changing gears a little bit, Buzz, we can't have you on the show and not talk about the FKT, or the fastest known time concept that you helped found. And I know you've been asked about its origin a million times, but people may still not understand what that is and why is it so important to the world of mountain sports.
The word first came to me, and another person, by the way, had used it prior to me, although it was fairly obscure. But the word first came to me when Peter Backwin and I were going for the John Muir Trail. And we thought, okay, what's the fastest time? There's that word. And it was hard to find out. You really had to do a lot of research. I had made calls and sent letters because it's hard to imagine a world of pre-internet. But the times in the John Muir Trail and many classic routes were pre-internet. So that means they're gone. And so when we went to do it, we thought we knew what the fastest time was, but you can't be sure. And so I just thought it was the fastest known time. That's all it is. It's literally the fastest known time. And that's different from a record. Because you can interchange, and that's fine. But a record has a more of an official meaning to it. Like a third party is there with a stopwatch. It's someone else beside yourself. And when we started talking about fastest known times, and Peter started a website, he started the first one, it was a gentleman's agreement. You announced your intention in advance, you made a written record, you didn't do it by memory, and you let people know about it immediately after it was done with some sort of documentation, like dates and so on and so forth. And then as technology grew, we required a GPX file, because at first they were rare. Then after a year or two, when Strava was started, for example, put it on Strava, send us the file. That's your verification. If you don't do that, then you didn't do it. You see what I mean? And so then with another person, Jeff Schuler, Peter and I started the fastestknowntime.com website. And that's a total thing. Unfortunately, it only applies to running and hiking mostly. I wanted to expand it to everything, swimming, cycling, skiing, and so forth. But Jeff and Peter kind of ran out of gas on that, and so we sold it to Outside Inc., Outside Media. I thought they were going to take it to the next level, but they actually didn't, unfortunately. So it does remain the absolute worldwide source for hiking and running the fastest times on the most cool routes in the world. And so one thing I want to emphasize here is if you're traveling or going somewhere and want to know what the coolest routes are, go to fastestknowntime.com and look it up, because it's basically a bucket list of the coolest routes in the world. What it is I forgot how many thousands on there, but they're all verified. I use Strava almost every day, but that is completely non-verified. You can get away with anything you want on that mostly, and there's bazillion little segments on that. But fastestknowntime.com, everything has been verified, and so I think it's a high-quality list.
Absolutely. When I go to that website, I see all these dots all over the world, and people have posted. But I did not know that those times have been verified. Like I thought this was self-reported. So who is
It
verifying?
is self-reported, but there are editors who literally have looked at every single submission and verified that it is correct.
Okay. Like how do they
Everything.
ensure that it's correct?
Well,
They're looking at
they sent in submittee sent in that GPX file and said, "This
I
is
see.
what I
Okay.
did."
Okay.
And
so you
they'll
have
the
to-
region they're called regional editors. I think there's 15 of them, and they will look at it and they'll say, "Does this look right?" And if there's anything wrong, they'll just plunk it into the map and make sure you started and finished at the correct place and didn't cut any corners and things like that. And so you can cheat probably, but it doesn't happen very often. And so everything has been verified. A lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any route is not accepted. You can't just run around the mailbox. It has to be a route that other people would want to do.
Got it. Got it. It sounds like it's a little bit like almost like Wikipedia in some ways, that you have
Yeah.
people submitting information and maybe some people moderating. I do like to believe that in the world of mountain sports, most people are genuine and most people are reporting things that they've actually done, because I feel that the motivations are usually more internal than not. But yes, sounds like somebody's verifying this. Yeah, I hope the powers to be at outside maybe recognize that this concept could extend to other mountain sports, but maybe even
Yeah.
beyond to ocean sports. And
Sure. They should. They're very good at acquisition and funding, and then they got to a certain point where they didn't have adequate revenue, and so the next round of funders said, "We're pulling back. You need to start making money here." And so there was a round of layoffs, and so a lot of things just got flatlined. Most of their magazines, except for Outside, are no longer in print. Trail Runner magazine. It's hard to believe, but Outside Media owns Backpacker, Yoga Journal, Trail Runner,
Yeah.
Climbing, et cetera, et cetera. They were up to 32 titles at one point, and they've just hanging on. They're still around, but most of them are not in print publications anymore, and a lot of them have lost their leadership. And so the voices that made it particular to those communities are gone. Journalism is super hard. I can't blame them a whole lot, because the internet made people think that everything is free, and nothing is free. Nothing
Yes,
is free. They got your data, they're selling your data, et cetera, et cetera. And you can go on social media and just get I'm searching for an adjective that won't be offensive to people, but
Yeah.
let's just say the content is not high quality on social
Yeah,
media.
yeah.
But that, on the other hand, it's free and it's immediate. And so if you have a magazine, how do you pay for it? So if you're a journalist and you want to have really good quality reporting that is truthful and insightful and summarizes the situation, you have to pay someone to do it. So how are you going to get paid back when there's 1 million social media posts per
Yes.
minute taking
Yes.
place in the world? So it's a tough situation.
Indeed, and maybe at some point, maybe they will sell off their non-performing assets. Somebody will buy this fastest known website and maybe
Right.
really help realize its full potential.
I think it's a great point. I would like to see that. I keep expecting to see that, but they haven't done it yet. I'm just go back a couple minutes. I mentioned a person who had used fastest known time. His name was Bill Wright, and pardon me, I failed to mention his name.
Got it. Absolutely. Thank you for putting it. Yeah, thank you for mentioning the name. And Buzz, you have held so many of those FKTs over the years. Obviously, one thing that stands out as I look at your work is you have found just incredibly creative adventures and found a way to document them and talk about them. And the concept of time, I would agree, and speed is important. But I'm also curious with how has your relationship with speed and time changed in the last couple of, yeah.
I had a girlfriend 10 years ago. We were talking and we were going, oh man, this is old age is just tough, bloody work. It's not that much fun sometimes. Being retired, by the way, is very fun. So that actually works really well. And she came up with the great suggestion of she wouldn't ever look at the mirror and I wouldn't ever look at my watch and we'd all be totally happy. And so that's one of the ways my relationship has changed. You have to reset your expectations. There's no training that is possible that will enable me to go faster. It's ridiculous concept. I will get slower and slower until the day I die, no matter what. And many people listening to this, you can say the same thing. And so one has to reset one's expectations and, do what is moving you, do what is making you happy. And you could say that it's a organized retreat, which statistically would be true, instead of an all-out surrender. I quit. I can't do this anymore. It's an organized retreat. You're just pulling back slowly, and you're doing it by training. By the way, I told you I'm really quite consistent. I'm fairly assiduous, and that is to slow down more slowly. Sure. And so you have to look for the gems, look for what moves you. And I think for me, and I would suggest for many people, it's not about the time and the distance and so forth. It's simply about manifesting who you are. This is my authentic self. I was born to move, and so I'm going to move. And I will keep track of the times, the distances, and the elevation and heart rates and things like that. Well, actually, Strava does it for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't keep track of it. But really, it's the movement. And however I'm moving is okay. Whether it's on foot, running on the water, it's all okay. And I think we find that place within ourselves that's just who we are. And then it's just a matter of being who we are.
Have you tapped into any strategies, Buzz, for, let's say, this mindset shift around acceptance? Like, you are still out there doing the thing, even if you're not doing it with, let's say, the same records, same speed. Yeah, your legacy is tied to having done things in the best way. How are you able to reconcile that and not let that affect your performance on a given day?
I think that's a good question. It's a very good question. It's sort of a tough answer. So I literally will have to think about that a little bit. I think it goes back to what I said a minute ago, which is just be yourself. For me, at least, I had to take it down to that fundamental level. Because if I'm pursuing numerical goals, it just seems a little odd. Because the times are just going to get slower no matter what. And you're keeping track. You might do the same race every 5 years and say, whoa, that's just a lot slower. And you don't feel that bad. And so it's really about being who you are. And for me, it's born to move. I'm just like a kid. When I was 4, 5, 6 years old, I used to run outside and play. Just ran outside in the woods. And my mother had this police whistle. And when it was time for dinner, she blew 3 blasts on the police whistle, which meant I had to come home. And I'm still like that. I just really want to go outside and play. And the format isn't as important. And so I understand it. I have a certain type of shoes, socks, the gear, the nutrition. I've dialed in my kit and my methodology. But fundamentally, I think you have to find that bliss within you, that joy within you that's different for everyone, and connect with it. Connect with that primal joy of movement.
I love that. And I was just thinking that I'm not sure if you've yet penned a memoir, but I can already see perhaps a name for that, unless it's been taken, which could be Born to Move. And yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that is such a integral expression with how you look at yourself, and maybe even like how the world looks at yourself. Really, it distills down all these adventures distill down to maybe that one key phrase. And maybe just like a fun question, you seem to pick up new things. What might be something exciting, Buzz, you've picked up in the last several years?
Oh, that happens to be an easy question. But it's a little odd. I feel a little sheepish to say this, but at age 70, I learned how to e-foil.
Nice.
Yeah, and I can't say this is a safe sport. And you'll have to Google it, E dash
No,
L.
I'm familiar with e-foiling, and
Oh,
we
good.
should explain that to the
Everyone else who probably hasn't
because
heard of it.
I also surf. I've been surfing for a while. Surfing kayaking for
There
a
you
while.
go. So
What-
foiling is, foiling is not super stable. This
It's
is
not. But hang on. Why did you say you feel sheepish about it? It sounds great.
well, it's obviously not super safe. And so you say, why are you doing that? If someone were to question me, I would have trouble parrying their query. But like you just asserted, you were totally correct. I like learning new things. I just like to do new things. And I look at this foil and I said, wow, that looks amazing. But then you got to gear up for it. You got to learn how to do it. You have to get the stuff. And, it takes you a while before you're standing up. Because this wing is a 1/4 inch thick. And the board's only 60 inches long. And so it's got a little electric motor in it, a lithium battery, this little propeller, 3-inch propellers turning around. And so there you are, and you're on your knees, and you're going plowing through the water. And it has a hand controller. You press a couple buttons to get the speed up. And okay, all right, let's see. Now I can stand up. It takes you a while just to stand up, but you're still on the board, right? You're still plowing through the water with a lot of friction, leaving a little wake. And then when you get up on foil, you press the button, you bump up the speed, and it comes up on that wing. And suddenly you don't hear anything. There's no wake because this 1/4 inch wing is cutting through the water with very little resistance. And people say, is it stable? No, it's not stable at all. There's a little bit of a learning curve to it. And if you go in, you're going in and you can feel it. You're going flying.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's stable as long as you're moving. If you stop
Right.
moving. If you stop moving and you don't watch out where the foil is, it can be hazardous. I'll tell you
Right.
personally, I tried wing foiling for the first time a couple of years ago down in South America. I haven't been able to get back to it, but I am already setting up this virtual piggy bank buzz where I can put away quarters. So maybe in 10 years, I can buy an e-foil because I feel
All
like
right.
e-foil is great because one can. I feel in some ways like the e-bike. 10 years ago, I would have scoffed at getting an e-bike, but I can see my future self in 5 years would not worry about my ego getting on an e-bike.
Right. E-bikes are fabulous. I just want to clarify that I do a lot of recreational riding, and I'll still even do an occasional race, always self-propelled. I don't think e-bikes, that's what they're for. To me, e-bikes are the world's best commuter vehicle, and people are driving their bloody cars all over. We say, cars are polluting, cars are this, cars are that. Well, get out of the car. And the e-bike's the best way to do it because you don't work up a sweat. If you're going to work, you go in your street clothes. I used to go bike 10 miles to work at Ultimate Direction, 10 miles back. And when I got the e-bike, it was much easier, and I did it more often because you don't get sweaty and going on your street clothes. So I'm a big e-bike proponent. They're here to stay.
I love that, Buzz, because I've also been bike commuting for the last 20 years, living in San Francisco. And there are many people, who, I think the learning curve feels too much to get on a regular bike on the streets. And I used to maybe also be a bit of an anti-e-bike, and I'm like, man, that is so stupid. Anything that gets you out of a big box of metal and onto a bicycle, the benefits so clearly overwhelm everything else. And
Agreed.
yeah, exactly. I think more people need to be on bicycles, whatever kind that might be. I think healthier for them, healthier for all of us. Just one thing I want to ask about your e-foiling. And what is it like to feel that, to put yourself in the seat of a beginner again, right? You're picking up this new sport and it carries like these elements of like thrill, the element of risk and investment. And here you are, you're 70, you're picking up something new.
That's a good question. Thank you for that question. And I had a particular attitude that I remember quite well, which is don't worry, no goals. I think that's what really helped me. I had to get out there and say, don't worry about it. Go through the process, enjoy being out on the water, and do not set up a goal for yourself, any timeline, because I don't think that would have been appropriate. I don't think that would have really helped me that much. And so it took a little while. It was like, I don't know, six. For example, once I learned to just you get up off my knees and stand up and ride the board, then I said, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do this for 30 minutes and just feel comfortable. You know what I mean? Just do this and feel comfortable. And then it's okay, let's bump it up and try to get up on the wing just to see what it feels like. You know what I mean? Just be where you are now, relax, enjoy it, don't set goals. And that's what helped me. And now I'm relatively confident. I'm no Laird Hamilton. I'm not no 20-footers for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people listening to this podcast will be intrigued by the idea. Any tips on what might be a good place or a good process
I think
to get started with?
Foiling, for e-foiling, which is different, and there's different types of foiling, obviously.
Totally.
There's the pump foil, which is just like super hard work, and it's like, I'm not doing it. And then, of course, like Laird, and those guys that can do this tow-in. The jet ski is going to tow them, and then once you get up on foil, because they're super efficient, you can get on rollers. You can surf rollers. It doesn't have to be that steep of a break. So there's that. But then the coolest thing, actually, in my opinion, is the wing foil. Where you're literally holding a wing with your two hands, and it's not on a mast. It's not a fixed mast. You're literally holding a wing. Oh, and there's, of course, kite foiling, too, which is in the Olympics, by the way.
But
actually,
what is the sport that you would recommend? Which of these versions for some?
Yeah, well, I was into wing foiling. That's what I wanted to do. I went down to Ventana, Baja, Mexico, because that's where like the people were training for the Olympics down there. It's got this. It's just always windy, and it's in the bays. There's not big surf. And I said, wow, this is a long learning curve, and I don't really like wind. I don't really want to live in a place where it's that windy. It was just unpleasant. Some people like it. And I realized, I don't know, I'm just going to skip the wind, drop the sail, and get a little lithium battery and go out where it's not bloody windy all the time. So that's what I did. And it's not the coolest thing, for sure. I think the wing foil is the coolest thing to do. But I don't want to live in a place that's that windy.
And the beauty of an e-foil is, you don't need wind. You don't even need to be in a body of salt water. You can be on a lake, right? You can be in a lake. So, it's a great sport.
Where I mainly use mine, I've been out the Pacific, and I've been on Lake Powell and reservoirs in Colorado. But by far, the best for me is Lake Michigan. I mean, the Great Lakes are really good. No jellyfish. Very little seaweed. Really good culture. Reasonably good weather, only in the summer. And the waves definitely pick up in Lake Michigan. Don't doubt that they do not. So I think the Great Lakes are fabulous.
And Buzz, I believe you trace your origins to the state of Michigan. So maybe this allows you to discover and feel this bond for your home state in the whole year.
Yeah, I think that there's a little bit of that where one grows up. There's an affinity you take to it for the rest of your life, probably. And I spent, as soon as I graduated from college, skid marks in the driveway, and I moved to Boulder, Colorado. And Colorado was my home for a long time. And I, now I own a house in Moab also, because the desert has a lot of territory out there. I like the climate in the winter and spring only. But then if I go back to Michigan, it still feels really good to me. And you have to realize, you don't have to, pardon me, but I should say a lot of people do not realize they're called the Great Lakes for a reason. You're looking at, I think it's something like 40% of the surface fresh water in the world are in the Great Lakes. So, wow. Lake Michigan is 900 feet deep. You can surf. There's a surf shop in Empire, Michigan. So it's pretty good. But don't move there. You won't like it.
No, I have a lot of love for Michigan. When I first came to the States, I ended up spending a fair bit of time in Michigan thanks to a love interest back then. And I have just a lot of beautiful culture, lots of great outdoors. Particularly in the summer and fall. Putting a
winter's different.
Buzz, you have mentored people through FKTs, through conversation, and what do you see as your role now to younger athletes, to people asking you for advice? What is this? What is this thing that you keep coming back to?
It's an interesting question. And I'm not sure if I really do mentor people. I think, to be honest, I just do what I do, and I try to be a nice guy, try to live lightly on the earth. I have a very strong environmental ethic. I believe progressive politics, and I think I've taken a hard edge off over the decades because I used to be a little more driven, if you will. But I've never been a coach. I'm not sure if I've deliberately mentored anybody. I think I try to live a really honest, forthright life. I try to be authentic. And I think maybe people look at that and say, that's pretty nice. That's good. I'd like to do things like that also. You see what I mean? And we start off by saying, Kush, I haven't died yet. I think people are going into middle age go, hey, he hasn't died yet. So I think people are aging athletes are saying, gosh, look at that guy. He's still having fun. I guess hopefully I'll still have fun another 20 years also. But I don't really, other people's lives just aren't my business. I just don't, I just say it with all respect. It's just not what I think I work hard enough, and most of us do work hard enough to try to be a good person ourselves. It just your own ego is plenty to work with. You don't need anybody else's. I'm just not qualified for the position of telling anyone what to do or how they should do it. I'm just unqualified to do that. And so I can try to be a nice guy, try to be very authentic, and try to be compassionate, and try to live lightly on the earth. And hopefully we can make friends and support each other as we do that.
It's a great answer. And yes, no, I like how, straight up you are about your role. And I still believe, though, that there is much that we can learn from what you're doing today. And yeah, just a couple of questions on that theme. One question I do like to ask everybody here is, what does being ageless mean to you?
Ageless? That's the title of your podcast.
Correct.
It could have two meanings, Kush. One is the relative and the absolute meaning. So the relative meaning is that it doesn't have any meaning. There's no such thing as ageless. Everything ages. Rocks age. The universe ages. But the absolute meaning, in the infinite sense, is ageless means we are here right now, and whatever we're doing now has no before or after. You see? Sure. So if you're in the moment, nothing else really matters. So the age is non sequitur. So I guess there's the relative and the absolute meanings of the term.
I like that, but your answer was both light, like how you come across, but I think it was also profound if you think about it. That's what I would like to think about, which is we are here now, and that is what is fundamental, and everything else is just us coming up with stories. A couple of questions here on this broad theme. Is there something or anything you have let go of recently that used to be quite important to you?
Probably, but I can't think of it right now.
Okay.
I think
it doesn't have to be heavy.
Well, I think some of the things that I let go of, and pertinent to our topic, is levels of fitness. There's things I can't do now, and I think those are disappointing, at least to me. Fortunately, I'm still able to run. Every sport I've ever done, I can still do. That's good. So I haven't had any massive letting go there. But it is unfortunate that I've just slowed down dramatically, I would say. I think that's a letting go. Yeah, pardon me about it. That's the best I got.
Sure, that's fair. And perhaps conversely, what might be something you are more clear about today than before?
I think one thing about this age is the commitment level oddly can go up. There's this real irony to it, Kush, that your question provokes my answer on this, which I've developed over the past couple of years, which is, what are you going to do? There's no future. You see what I mean? You go through most of your life thinking, well, go to college. Okay, I can get a job. Oh, there's this future. You're planning for the future, and your recreational activities, your goals. You want to do this big project. this mission, this 512 climb, whatever it happens to be for you, surf this particular wave in a particular location, hopefully you're going to do it. But at a certain age, you're not going to do it unless you do it now. It's all of a sudden the horizon line is visible. It's not in the distant futures. For example, where are we here? 2025? Yeah, it was 2.5 years ago. I was really having a time. Breathing was hard. My fitness was real down. I went to a lot of tests. I think they were just wrong, and I was pressing it pretty hard. And I think the tests were just coming up completely wrong. And so I finally went into the emergency room. And 2 hours later, a cardiologist walked into the room and said, "You're not leaving the hospital. I'm doing an emergency coronary angioplasty with stent tomorrow morning." And so they went in through my wrist, snaked this little tube up, and cleared out my artery and put in a stent. I had a 95% blockage in my left anterior descending artery, the widowmaker.
Whoa.
Another 5%, and you got 30 seconds to live. And I had that. I lived with that for 2 months while they were trying to figure it out. But because I was a strong athlete, I could jog up the stairs to the examining room. They said, "Get the heck out of here. You don't have a problem." And so I actually did have a problem, and they fixed it through modern medicine. I'm getting to the point here, Kush. You can say, "Wow, I just barely survived that. I better take it easy. I better be safe. I better be careful. I better be cautious because I could die. I could get hurt." Or you could say, "Screw it. This is it. There isn't going to be a next time. There is no tomorrow for someone like me. I'm going to die at some point. So if there's something you want to do, now is the time to do it." And so that is the answer to your question. You hit this fulcrum point, and you could say, "I better take it easy. I better be safe." Or you can say, "There ain't no tomorrow. It's time to throw down. It's time to get with the program because I'm going to die anyway."
Yeah, it sounds like it's one of those come to Jesus moments where it's not quite you have 6 months to live, go check off your bucket list, but it is this strong knock, which is anything that's got to get done, one has to keep moving. No, I hope. What can I say? I hope that whenever the knock comes from me, if I get a knock and it's not like somebody breaking the door down, I hope that's the way I respond as well as you have.
And if we could, Kush, your questions are wonderful. They're very thought-provoking, so thank you. Thank you for doing this. And because of my big day tomorrow, we probably got to think about wrapping it up fairly soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Just a couple more things. One thing I probably should ask you, and I know it sounds like a basic question, but knowing you, I feel I'll get a thoughtful response, which is, if you were to perhaps go back 20 years, what is maybe one thing that you would tell your younger self to either do differently or stop doing or double down on?
Yeah, that's another fascinating question. I think it's a really good one, and maybe I'm just too much of a dullard to have a good answer for it. I'm not sure. I think going back to 2 questions ago, what do I say to other people? In a way, this question is the same thing. What I say to myself, a younger version of myself. And there is this aspect of you got to walk through it. You have to live through it. And an old saying is, "Youth is wasted on the young." And there's people nowadays in various sports. I can think of individuals in particular they're in their 30s. And when you're in your 30s, you think you got the world by the tail. And you probably don't. But what am I going to say to them? There's nothing to say. The only thing I'd like to say is record yourself now and play it back 20 years from now. You're going to go, whoa. And so what would I say to myself in the same situation? I don't know. What would be effective? I'd go out there and charge and maybe not take real good care of myself, not do the best nutrition and hydration plan. It took me forever to learn to just drink water and eat food and do things like that. I guess that's what I would say. It's just these real basic things of inspiration is terrific, but while you're at it, take care of the basics. Drink water, eat food, learn the electrolyte balance. You can be more effective. You can have more fun if you're taking better care of yourself.
Maybe one fun thing all of us, including me, could do right away is record ourselves today. saying that, and then come back and email that to us, maybe to come to us 20 years from now. Just You host this fastest known time podcast. Actually,
I used to.
You have moved on.
I-
You've moved on. You now
Yes.
host a new podcast.
The Buzz.
The Buzz.
The Buzz. Literally, there's probably a few of them, but you see a picture of me. It's about running, and it's by Ultra Sign Up, so you can find it pretty easily.
So you host the Buzz podcast, and I have listened to it, and it's a genuinely great show. It's sharp, and it's also intimate and fun.
Thank you.
And yeah, and I feel like people who listen to my podcast would also enjoy listening to yours. Maybe if folks wanted to check it out, any particular episode that you would recommend that they go to?
Not really. It only releases every other Tuesday, once every 2 weeks. So you could look at the catalog by going onto whatever you use, Spotify or Apple. It's on all those. So I guess I not really. Nope. I don't so.
People can just pick an episode or maybe let the app recommend an episode to them. I think it's a great show. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today. I know you have to be ready for your big day up in the mountains tomorrow. Good luck for that, and good luck for your travels. Hope we can have you back again for some Buzz wisdom.
Well, your questions were very serious and thoughtful. So thank you. Thank you for what you do. I really appreciate what you're doing.
That's it, folks. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Ageless Athlete Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this show just as much as I enjoyed creating and producing it. Whether you are an athlete looking to push your limits or someone striving to maintain a healthy, active lifestyle as you age, there is always something new to learn. From Ageless Athlete, we bring you a fresh episode each and every week. If you liked what you heard, we would love it if you would take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an update. And if you really liked what you heard, please leave us a review, crush those 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. It helps us reach more people who are passionate about staying strong and resilient, no matter their age. Don't forget to visit our website and leave your email so I can send you occasional insights, stories, and tips to keep you inspired and motivated on your journey. You can also follow us on Instagram at Ageless Athlete Podcast and on YouTube at Ageless Athlete Podcast as well for even more great content. All of these links are available on the show notes for this episode. This show is entirely produced by me, Kush Khandelwal, based out of California with the help of my trusted adventure pup Roger. Until next time, keep challenging yourself. Keep pushing those limits. Stay mentally and physically fit. Continue doing what you love to do. And my friends, stay ageless.
Friends, this is not an ad. This is just a quick message to those amongst us who are listening to Ageless Athlete podcast for the first time. I would love it if you would hit subscribe and follow on your favorite podcast app, whether it's Apple Podcast or Spotify or Stitcher or Overcast or what have you. We bring you stories and routines and other inspiration from elites in the world of the best outdoor sports. In each episode, you will find how these athletes stay connected to the outdoors, maintain peak performance, and continue to thrive as they age. I encourage you to look through prior episodes and listen to a couple and see if they resonate. And then, come back next week. We release an episode each week. And I am really inspired to bring you some of the best stories from the world of the outdoors. Okay, back to the show.